Hey guys, it's Jessica. Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is all about the books that I DNF'd in the first half of the year. DNF stands for Did Not Finish, and I feel like it's a topic that lots of readers have really strong opinions about. I would say that there are valid arguments on both sides for both DNFing books and not DNFing books. I am not here to tell you that you should DNF a book, but I will tell you that I am on the I like to DNF a book side, and I'm going to tell you some reasons why I might DNF. The number one for me is that I would like to avoid a reading slump. I would like to not force myself to read and then end up feeling like I don't ever want to read anything again, particularly not in the genre of the book that put me into the reading slump. Then we have kind of like mismatched expectations. So maybe I thought the book was going to be one thing, and then it was something else. Maybe the marketing was wrong. The marketing told me that it was going to be a thrilling ride, and instead it was a cozy fantasy with no stakes. Maybe that, because that could be a reason that I DNF, because that's not what I was in the mood for right then. And then we have what I'm going to call TBR reality. I am never going to read all the books in my lifetime that I want to read. That is not possible. I have a limited amount of time in my life that I can devote to reading. I have a full-time job, and if it's not working for me, I'm not going to waste my reading time on it. I want to read something that I'm going to enjoy. We have upsetting content, and I will say that you are absolutely allowed to DNF something that has some kind of content in it that you don't want to read about. I have done that before. I don't do that a ton, but it is something that I have done in the past. Then we have writing style issues, and this is very subjective. This is, what are your personal preferences? For me, if I start a book and it is in the present tense, particularly if it's in first person present tense, I'm going to need to be convinced. And I know that's a little bit of a ridiculous thing, but it's just something that I know it's supposed to put you right in the moment, but sometimes it doesn't work for me, but sometimes it does. So I always like to give books a chance. And then we have mood mismatch. So this is it's not the book for right now. It might be the book for later. Maybe it's not putting it down forever, but it's putting it down for right now because it's just not where I am. So we're going to talk now about the books that I DNF'd. This is about 6 months worth of DNFing. I didn't do a video like this at the end of last year, so I included a couple books from my December, but it's basically 6 months of books that I DNF'd, and it's not too many because I've gotten a lot better at understanding what I'm going to like and what I'm not before I even pick the book up. It's not about bashing these books. I think that these books are all books that somebody is going to enjoy, but it just was not me at the time that I tried to read them. With all that out of the way, I want to go ahead and get started. And the first book that I have on my list is a pretty recent one, and that is Murder at Gull's Nest by Jess Kidd. This is a cozy mystery, and it appealed to me, first of all, because it's about a former nun, which is always yes, I would like to read about that. And also I would like to know why you're a former nun. That's an interesting way to set up your character. So unfortunately, though, it just didn't work for me because of the writing style. I felt like the sentences in the book were very short and choppy, and it was also written in that present tense, which, as we know, sometimes I don't enjoy. So I didn't enjoy it. I don't think I got super far in this book. I think I got to about 70 pages and decided that I wasn't having a great time, and I didn't find that I was probably going to care that much about the mystery, so I just went ahead and DNF'd it. The second book I have is one that I really feel like it's just not for me personally, and that's Ancillary Justice by Ann Leckie. I tried to read this book twice because I wanted to love it so much because so many people love this series. But I found myself very disconnected emotionally from all of the characters in the book. And I am someone who is very much a character reader. And if I don't care about any of the characters, I have a difficult time continuing on. If this had been a standalone, I probably would have finished it. But because it's the start of a trilogy, I just could not see myself reading 3 books that were going to give me that feeling. So I went ahead and DNF'd it, but again, I think that this is one where it's just really my personal reading preferences that made it not work for me. And I know that a lot of people absolutely love this series. We have, standing in for all the romance books that I probably read 3 pages of and quit, Ready or Not by Cara Bastone. This is a rom-com about a young woman who finds herself unexpectedly pregnant and about the man who steps up to try and help her out. And I think that's a really cute setup. It's kind of a friends to lovers kind of situation, which is something that I enjoy because it's so different from all of the enemies to lovers stuff that we see. But I have just really been struggling with rom-com. A lot of it is about the banter. If the banter does not work for me, or if I feel like the characters don't feel like real people, then I will not continue reading it. And I really wanted to love it, but I didn't. And as I said, I've been really struggling with any kind of a romance. I don't know. I used to read so many romances. I used to read when I was in, I mean, this is when I was in like high school and college. I mean, I used to have an obsession with historical romances, especially Regency, but you know, whatever, historical romances. And I read so many of them. And I don't read those particularly anymore. So I think I'm gonna like contemporary rom-coms, and I sort of don't. It's just not something that works for me personally. So I DNF that. Don't feel bad about it, except that the cover's really pretty. I did have some of these books, but I have already given all of them away to little free libraries, which you can see in my last video. I will link that down below. And then we have Great Big Beautiful Life by Emily Henry. Okay. So I have the most complicated relationship with Emily Henry books. As I have said many times, Funny Story was a book that I felt like was written for me. The main character felt so true to how I am and how I feel about a lot of things and a lot of situations in my life. I just adored her, and I loved her relationship with the male main character. I just love that book so much. And at the same time, prior to that, I had read Happy Place, which is one of my least favorite romances of all time. And I did, by the way, finish that book. That book was not a DNF. It's probably a book that I should have DNF'd, but this one, the one that I'm talking about now that I DNF'd, I probably could have kept reading. There was nothing wrong with it except that this is much more of a women's fiction book or contemporary fiction than I feel like it was a romance. It's the story of these two writers who are competing to write the story of this famous person who's been out of the limelight for a long time. And they obviously are the two, falling in love characters. But then we also have the story that they're trying to write. And I think that having those two competing plot lines within the same book made it so that it felt very unsatisfying to me on either side. So I did end up DNFing it just because I was taking forever to read it, and I found that I didn't really care. And I am somebody who reads one book at a time. I don't like to read more than one book at a time. So if I were somebody that could read more than one book at a time and keep them straight, I would probably have just said, well, let's put this down. Read something else, come back, read a little bit, but I cannot do that. I have to read the whole thing. And so I DNF'd it. But, I've seen mixed things about this. I think a lot of it's about your expectations. So if you're going into this book, I would have the expectation that it's very different from her other books, which isn't necessarily a bad thing. As I said, I don't think it's a bad book. I just think it was not for me personally. Then we have Station Eternity by Moore Lafferty. This is a sci-fi mystery. I love sci-fi mysteries. And there was a lot that I really liked about this book. I thought it was very funny. I liked the main character who is kind of on a space station because she has a problem where people keep getting murdered around her. So she has escaped to this space station, and obviously, you can't escape that kind of thing, I guess. I really enjoyed all of the alien characters on the space station. They were the best part of the book, definitely. I DNF'd this one really late, probably 50-60% in, and the reason why I DNF'd it was because the pacing was very slow. And I didn't feel like, even at that late time, I wasn't really sure what the mystery was exactly, and that was a problem for me. But I did like a lot of things about it, and I honestly would probably consider reading the second book in the series to see if a lot of that was just needing to set up the world, but I just could not bring myself to finish this one. Now we're going to step back to December of last year, and I'm going to give you my 3 DNFs from that month, just because I never talked about them in another DNF video. The first one is The Ashes and the Star-Cursed King by Carissa Broadbent. I'm not a huge romantasy reader. I don't think there's anything wrong with romantasy. It's just, as I was talking about, my romance thing, I just find that I don't like books right now that are super focused on romance. I want to be focused on plot and characters and world building instead. But I had read the first book in this series and I did enjoy it. It has trials. I always enjoy a good trial. I liked the world building. I liked the vampires because they weren't like nice cuddly vampires. I enjoyed that. I liked the main character. I didn't like how the book ended, but I thought, I wanted to finish the second book because it was a duology. But this book is like 700 pages long, and I don't know why it's 700 pages long because it is so slow. And a lot of the stuff that happened in the first book that I didn't like just, kind of kept on going with like no explanation in the second book. And I really didn't like it. I liked the first book. I don't know that it needed a sequel. I think, well, it did need a sequel, but I don't know that it needed the sequel. I don't know. I don't know where I am. I just didn't like it. So this one was a DNF for me for a lot of reasons. And then I also DNF'd Swordcrossed by Freya Marske. This is a fairly new release. Romantasy, again, we will notice a theme. Freya Marske is a romantasy writer that writes primarily queer romantasy with very cozy worlds and characters that I want to really love. And I don't dislike her books. I find them to be very generic in terms of the characters and the tropes that they are following. And this one felt like it was going to be really romance trope heavy to me. So this was an early DNF, and maybe it got better, but this one was like, I read like 50 pages and I was like, oh, I feel like I get the idea and I'm done. So I quit reading it. I feel kind of bad about it though. I don't know if you could tell, but I just decided that I probably wasn't going to enjoy it. So that was a DNF. And I have one more, which is Episode 13 by Craig DeLuey. So I have heard so many good things about Craig DeLuey's books, and I heard specifically good things about this book, which is a horror novel that consists entirely of found material. So like transcripts, interviews, written material, notes, like that kind of thing. And I thought that sounds really cool. And I always like to say, I love found material. And I think maybe I do, but I don't love an entire book of it. So I liked, for instance, We Used to Live Here, which is a horror book I read last year that I think is fantastic, that has a lot of found material in it, but it's not all of the book. And this was the entire book, and I had a hard time. I have a hard time reading scripts and trying to get invested in the characters when I'm not inside their head. I'm just reading about them. You know what I mean? But I do think that this would have made a fantastic audio play. Yes. Or a miniseries or something like that, because I think the idea of the story, which is about a TV show, a ghost hunting TV show that I guess finds real ghosts, I thought that was very interesting, but I had no forward momentum with this, and I did end up DNFing it. And there you have it. That's all the books that I have DNF'd. It's actually a lot less than I did last year. So I do feel like I am starting to get to know the books that I like. There were probably quite a few books this year still that I could have DNF'd and did not. So maybe that's an idea for a different video later on. So if you've made it this far, I would like to know in the comments, what is a book that you DNF'd recently, or a popular one that you just couldn't get into? I think that these conversations are really important to kind of destigmatize the idea of DNFing and not finishing a book when you're not having a good time. And if you made it to the end and you're feeling quiet, why don't you leave me the red X emoji to let me know that you were here. I hope that you all have a fantastic day. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.